We're very excited to have Catherine today from the DevDiv division. She's a PM, and today she's actually here to talk to us about change analysis. It's a new service, although not I wouldn't say new. It's a fairly new service. It's been out for a while, but not many people are aware of that, and it is a fantastic solution if you haven't used it before. So we got Catherine, and we're excited to have her on the show to come and talk to us about what it is and why you should be using it. Hey, Catherine, how are you?
Good. Thanks for having me here.
No, it's our pleasure. So tell us a little bit about change analysis. What do you do, and what is this service all about?
Sure. So I'm the PM for Change Analysis tool. Many of you as developers, if you ever had the experience supporting a product, you may recall like when issues happen, one of the very first things to figure out what changed. Like if your application was working just a few hours ago and suddenly it broke, there must be something changed, right? Either in the code, in the configuration, in the your Azure Resources, and so on. But figuring out what changed could be time-consuming because multiple teams could be working on the same project. There are just so many places you can make a change, like through Visual Studio, in Azure Portal, through the CLI command line, and so on. So to solve this problem, we introduced the change analysis tool. It allows you to see what changed in your subscription, like in your resources over time, and who changed it. So this can help you troubleshooting issues by isolating the problem component and identify which colleague to follow up.
Not a finger of blame, right? We're not using this to blame people. We're just using them to follow up. Very important.
Correct. Yeah, communication like helps a lot. It's not about who to blame.
Yes, I have to say that this is a vital service. I've been in many companies that change, like code changes or live changes to systems would happen at not a very structured way. In fact, I had somebody once during lunchtime do a change on the live system. They went for lunch, totally unaware that they broke something, and people were trying to figure out what changed, who changed it, and why things stopped working. And then they came back after 2 hours saying, "Oh yeah, that was me." And then everybody was in firefighting mode for 2 hours. So having something like that is vitally important, no matter how you deploy your code. Or hopefully you're not doing right-click publish to your production. But no matter what happens, it's a very nice way to be able to trace back your changes. So yeah, let us know. How can we get started with this thing?
Right. So let me do a quick demo. This is a website our team works on, and I want to do something with it. So let me go.
So we're gonna break this lovely website, right?
Right. Okay. If I refresh. Oops. Yeah, so you saw the website was just working, right?
Oh yeah.
And so sorry, this suddenly broke. We have multiple colleagues working on this website with me, actually like 5 members. Someone works on the UI, someone works in the application logic, and someone maintains the database. So now I don't really know who to ask, like why I received this error.
It's usually JP. Don't worry.
No respect.
Right. Usually in a team, there's some expert solving all the problems, like knowing everything. But then we really want to enable like all the developers, like average team member, to be able to solve the problem. So we don't have like a single point of failure. And we also can reduce the mean time to resolution because more people are available to help. Okay. So I'll show you how to enter this experience. Firstly, I want to go to the Azure portal. Yeah, I have a change analysis pinned here, but if you are new to it,
Mm-hmm.
go to the search bar and go for application change analysis.
Right.
This one, the top result returned is the one we're going to use.
Perfect.
So this is the standalone UI for this service.
Mm-hmm.
We have a few other entry points I'll introduce you later. But now I can see there are a few changes happened to my subscription
Mm-hmm.
in the last 24 hours.
Nice.
So we support multiple subscriptions if you are a DevOps engineer monitoring a
Oh,
few subscriptions like dev production testing, for example, to
very
make
nice.
things easier. We allow you to filter down to resource group and like resource type or resource names
Yep.
if you know what you are looking for.
Oh,
So let's firstly take an overview at what I see here. Um, so these are the changes related to a virtual machine. As you can see, we have the power state change here. We have something like the network access policy changes.
mm-hmm.
So actually we support all types of Azure resources. If you want to investigate network changes, if you want to monitor your VM availability, if you want to know what property change were made to your database, this is a centralized view to see everything.
So any changes on your resources, whether it's a configuration change or file changes, will be captured by this, right?
Yes, that is correct. For web
Perfect.
apps, we capture the file changes.
Mm-hmm.
But then I see these VM changes may not be related to the error I was encountering.
Okay.
So let me just browse down to see like what's here. Okay, so I see this storage account. I know it's used by my application, and it has a default network change. The value was allow and analysis deny. So I see this is a suspicious change. So that might be associated with my failure.
Right.
And alternatively, if I already know my resource group, I can use the filter here to just narrow down to the resource group hosting my application, and this could make the view easier. Okay,
Absolutely.
so
Okay.
yeah, this is the only thing happened to my application, so I can investigate. I can click into the change to view more details. And as you can see, we have this change the by field to follow up with.
And I love how it says what the previous value was and what the new value is, so you can go and quickly check what's changed. Not just that something changed in there, it also gives you the actual value. So if you screw up, you
Right,
can always roll back, in other words, right?
yes. And you see this checkbox, view for context?
Uh-huh.
That gives you the exact ARM snippet if you want to do a quick rollback.
Oh, snap.
That's how you can update.
That's great. Now, all you need to do now is just add a button to say roll it back. And we're done.
Yeah, yeah, depends on the application. Rolling it back in production, I mean, sometimes it works, or we suggest you to follow up with who made the change
Right.
to understand more and take the best option.
Yeah, it's important that you don't go and change it back, because there might be a reason why we change the network configuration or the policy there for the storage account. Something that we want to protect or something important, and we need to be aware. Now, obviously, this broke the app, so it should have been tested. But let's say that you were firefighting something emergent and an emergency, and you wanted to fix it. Now you can at least go and figure out why and how it changed. Okay, cool. Oh, and it's also you have changed by at the top. I see there, second line, which is brilliant. Now I can always go back to JP and say, I know that you broke it because it's your name next to it. I'm just kidding. JP doesn't break anything. I usually break the stuff. Right?
Yeah, and if I have a few more minutes, I want to show
Yeah, you do.
you another feature. So we allow you to export all the change data to Log Analytics Workspace. This is in private preview, but you can reach out to us and we can enable your subscription.
Yes, so we will add your contact details, and then if people want to reach out the team, then we can always, if people want to try the private preview stuff, they can reach out to you, and you can light it up for them, right?
Correct. Yeah, so so you can see this is the table we export all the change data to. And you can see exactly the same change entries we saw on the UI earlier, but it's now in different columns with the description, more information, and you can just do any type of visualizations, export to Power BI, or configure notifications on top of this.
So I imagine too, this would be pretty useful with things like Azure Sentinel and Azure Security Center too, for doing things like threat response or incident response, and like hunting to see what kind of changes were made. Because if you can get them into a log analytics workspace, then I mean they're available for all those other services too.
Yes, that's correct. You can plug in the custom query to Azure Sentinel or even Power BI and so on.
It's awesome.
Now, let's talk about money. How much does this cost me?
That's the best thing. It is free.
Do you hear that, people? It's free. So you get free troubleshooting. I mean, it couldn't get any better than that. Where were you 5 years ago when I was in the field struggling with these things? Okay, so the next question I had is, how do I turn it on? Like, do I need to go and deploy it? Do I need to switch change any switches to make it happen? How do we enable that?
Right, so Change Analysis is a subscription level resource provider.
Okay.
So it needs to be registered once. And we made the registration experience pretty transparent, as if it's the first time you enter the Change Analysis UI, like any of the visualizations we provide, if it's the first time you click into the UI, we will start registering this resource provider for you.
Nice. So if I already have apps running on Azure and I want to, use change analysis, but I haven't used it yet, will I be able to get any data out of that, or do I need to switch it on first before I can see any data?
Yeah, that's the best part. We partner closely with Azure Resource Manager team, and we were able to query the change data from an existing data source called Azure Resource Graph. So we already have change data stored there, and you will be able to see the resource property level changes without having to turn on the subscription level resource provider. So as soon as that's turned on, you will be able to see the data back 14 days.
Perfect. So just to respond back to Bob, because he's messing with us, he's saying the service is free, but storage is $1,200. The fact that the data is already stored in because of ARM, it means that you don't have to worry about storage because you already have the data there. It's just a way to surface them and make them visible to you. Now, if you want to export them and use them in other services, then this is where you have to pay for storage. But to be honest, storage is extremely cheap for what you get at the back of this service. I'm telling you, Change Analysis is probably at the top of my 5 services on Azure, along with Key Vault and Functions, because it's such a helpful, and App Insights, because it's such a helpful tool out there. What about App Insights? Do I get anything between App Insights and Change Analysis, or are they totally separate?
Well, they are both under Azure Monitor, and we are servicing change data to like a few Azure Monitor features such as Workbook, VM Insights, and App Insights is also one of our close partners.
Amazing. Now, I'm super excited. I'm gonna start using it every time I don't know. Can I use it for the stuff that we're building? Probably we can. But it's a pity that I'm not in a production environment where I can actually make total use of that. For anyone that is watching us out there, get in touch with the team if you want to test the private previews. Start using it today. Give us any feedback that you might have. And, thanks very much, Catherine, for stopping by the show today. We really appreciate that. I'm sure that many people do not know about the service, so it's great to put it out there and get people aware of it.
I didn't know.
Yeah.
I
didn't know. See?
I think it's awesome. I love it.
It-
I'm like I've already turned it on in the 10 minutes.
Silently behind the scenes, JP was
Yeah.
switching it on. See, I'm
I was
telling
like,
you,
wow,
it's,
this
it's a
is-
fantastic feature.
Yeah, it's super cool. I love
Hi,
it.
Todd.
Well, thank you, Catherine. We'll make sure that we add your details at the bottom of the video where on YouTube people can actually catch it at a later time. And have a great day.
Okay, thank you. I'll email you this slide for next steps.
Yes.
Very cool.
Okay.
Thanks for coming.
Cool.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
All right, we'll be back in just a minute.
I need a t-shirt that says "I'll be back" before we do that,
Yep.
so I can
Lift
show
things
the
up and
t-shirt
put
and
them
say
down.
"I'll be back." Yeah.
So, we're gonna write a little bit of code today. A couple weeks ago, we had a couple of weeks ago. We've been working on for a couple of weeks, I guess now, if I can get my words out today. For the past few weeks, we've been working on a B2C authorization shoehorn bootleg of taking the app roles that are in the underlying Azure AD tenant underneath a B2C tenant and using them in B2C. Of course, we can't do that natively, and because of that, we have to write a bunch of code to do it ourselves. So I guess we're gonna cruise through this for another half hour or so.
Yeah.
So,
Oh, because sorry, people are expecting to see Lisa, and we have it on the title. Unfortunately, Lisa has been pulled into some actual work stuff, and
Yeah.
I know that people like to hang out with us on the stream, but sometimes work comes first. So
Yep.
unfortunately, we'll have to reschedule with Lisa. Apologies for the last change of schedule, but last minute change of schedule. But it is what it is.
yeah, so work happens, and I guess, so today...
How dare they? How dare they?
But we will definitely have Lisa back. We will definitely have Lisa back soon. So we're excited to have her. We just work got in the way today. So so we've got our B2C thing. Of course, I've been rather derelict in how much work I need to get done on this past couple of weeks. So I thought, well, let's just go do this for a little bit. So if you're just joining us on this part, what we're doing is we're taking the app role plumbing and ecosystem that comes out of Azure AD, and we're going to push that into B2C, and it really comprises two main parts. So there's this runtime function, which is what takes the roles out of the graph and stuffs them into a user's token, right? So we're going to take users' app roles that they're assigned to, and we're going to take them, query the graph for them, and push them into the token. So that part's relatively straightforward. B2C is going to call it API as a user signs in. So the user signs in, they go and they get their role. We could get the roles out of the database or out of the graph, which is essentially what we're treating as our database. And we push them into the token, and then the user hits the app, and the app does whatever with those roles, right? So the runtime side is largely finished.
Mm-hmm.
So what we've been working on for the past couple of weeks is the administrative side, which is
Right.
In B2C, we don't have a good mechanism for, well, you're a member of organization ABC, so you should only see other users in your organization. We just don't have a good way to express that in B2C. So we have to build it. And since ideally one day we'd be able to do this through Graph, the thought or the attitude was, well, let's try to mimic the Graph calls as much as possible. So if we go through, I'm going to collapse a few of these things here. I have a bad habit of writing all the code in one or two files and then splitting them out later on. So what
That's
we're
not a
going
bad
to do...
habit. That's iterative design. I like it.
Okay. Then I don't feel bad about it then. So the root is we really have three main sort of repositories that we have to build, and we want to follow a similar route to what we have with, or a similar route to what we have with the graph. Ideally, one day we'll transition this whole thing over to Graph, and we won't have to have this intermediary service at all. We can just do Graph queries directly from B2C, and then we can just toggle from one to the other. But until then, we're gonna have to proxy them ourselves, and we're gonna have to do a little bit of filtering. So we've got our organization methods here. I'm gonna put some carriage returns in here so that you can take a look. So
And this is all functions, by the way, right? So we're building everything in Azure Functions.
Yep.
To run in Azure Functions. Yep.
And there's not really an organization construct in Graph because, again, typically an Azure AD directory is one-to-one between directory and organization. So since we're kind of building that construct, we're trying to follow the URIs that exist in Graph,
Right.
but the return will be a little bit different, especially at the organization level, because these organizations are going to be filtered. They're going to be filtered by the organization of the calling user. But we also want to go get users, and so we want to keep that v1/users. We want to keep that path so that it's consistent with what we get when we're using Graph. And then we've got these other ones. This is a regex root down here, which is users, and then it looks for a GUID. This one has user email, and then this one just has a straight up query, hence the name get organization user by whatever. The big one down here is get user app role assignments by application. So that's going to give us all of the app roles that a user is assigned to per application. So if I've got 20 roles across 20 apps, then I'm going to get all 20 of those back. And because this is, again, because we're going to try to follow the graph, we're going to treat this a little bit differently. Instead of just having like the full query syntax passed in, we're going to try to mimic the graph, and we'll send in a filter and a select on this when it comes in. And largely, we're going to end up passing that back through. Then we've got some app functions, and so these are all about getting the applications ready to go so that we can find the applications, we can find the service principals associated with them, and then create application roles, because in our model, we're going to allow administrators to create new roles for applications. And so because of that, those new roles need to be, but they're still going to be based on the organization, right?
Okay.
So we can't get all of the roles all the time because the roles themselves need to also be filtered by organization ID, by which organization is a member of this. Now, at the same time, there's sort of a balance here, because every role that you create, the application developer is going to have to implement some kind of authorization based on that, right? They're going to have to say, well, I'm a member of role 1, 2, 3. Well, what does that mean in the app? And they're going to have to enforce something based on that. So we probably won't get too crazy here, but we're just trying to pull in the basics. This is definitely going to have to be sort of a developer and a developer and a customer are going to have to work together to figure out what's going to be best for what they feel like enforcing. So we've got the app
just to
roles.
be clear, this is an admin interface for managing the roles, not for implementing the authorization in the app, right?
Correct. Yep.
Yes. Okay.
Its primary purpose is to manage application role assignment, less so than necessarily creating new roles and whatever. Its primary goal is to manage who's assigned to them. So we have our app roles. We can add one, and that's kind of where we left off. So I'm going to start back with our organization up here at the top. And I started working on a repository, and I'm going to call it iOrganization repository. But the big thing here is that it's a filtered organization repository. And the way the filtered one's going to work is that essentially every query here is going to be filtered by the calling user's org ID, right? And oops, too many things going on here. Org ID is a property we'll call this a custom attribute or a user attribute on the user's object, right? So that's going to mean that in here we're going to need to connect to the graph. We're going to have to get the user. We're going to have to get their org ID, and then we're going to have to tack that filter onto every single one of these queries. I haven't really thought of the best way to do this yet. At first I thought, well, maybe I'd do a scoped one, so it'd be per request, and then that way a user, we could create a new repository for every single one, for every single user, as they, we just create a new instance every time, and we take their organization ID and just use that. That way each one of these methods doesn't necessarily have to re-implement that filtering on their own. It's just going to make a graph call, and that filter is going to be tacked on. I'm not entirely sure what the best way to do that is, because this is going to be something we have to do for essentially every single one of these. So it's going to be like get users organization, get user organization, and that's going to come off of the user ID, right? So pretty much every method's going to have to call this. And for now, until I figure out a better mechanism to do sort of like almost like a filter, like an MVC style filter, right? So I don't know, I'm kind of back and forth. The repo for this, let me put the repo link out here. This is in GitHub in our 45 show repository.
Yep.
And it's B2C app roles. In fact, I
open
just
for
pushed,
contributions.
Yep. So if you get use out of this, or you know somebody who will, and you want to contribute, then by all means, please clone this and start contributing. So, essentially, what we're going to start doing here is now we got to start proxying graph calls. And I'm on the fence. Christos, should we use the Graph SDK?
No, did you ask that? You can use the core library if you want to, so you don't get the full-blown thing. Just use the graph core.
Let's see what we've got in here. Oh, look, I've already added it. So why don't we just use it?
In that case,
already added
let's
it,
go
so
with that.
We might as well use it. So in order to get a graph client, because that's essentially what we're going to need, we're going to need a graph client up here. So filtered organization repository, and we're going to need a graph client. So it's graph service client. I wish there were like a snippet to make this faster. Like, just create me, like, this is the type I need. Please create me a constructor and a private variable for it.
I think you can add snippets into your Visual Studio Code, but then again, you have to manage them yourself.
Now, the key about our graph client is, we can definitely get away with a singleton graph client. Reason for that being, the graph client's always going to use the same credentials. The graph client is always going to be app level credentials because we have to, for the kind of work that we need to do. And the whole reason that this mid-tier service even exists is because a B2C user can't access the graph directly because we couldn't give them the right permissions anyway. So the graph client is going to be relatively easy to set up because it's going to be client credentials. We'll use a certificate, but for now, we'll use a secret for now. But the graph service client itself is always going to be use client credentials. So we've got our graph service client. So when it comes to get organization, we've got our So organization, when we looked at this in the Graph Explorer the other day, get this window up over here on the side. So if we go look at the Graph Explorer, what the organization is sort of the outlier here. Organization is definitely not the not what you're gonna be expecting to see. So organization.
Are you using the right account?
Are
you using the right account?
I am. Should be.
Okay.
So the organization ID is listed here, and it really just has some basics like the display name. The organization that we are going to have is going to be different because the organization is a completely new construct in a way from what we're used to having.
Okay. Because of B2C, right?
Right. Because of B2C, this data is really quite useless because this doesn't do anybody any good, right?
Any good. Yep.
So what that means is we're going to have to store some data somewhere else, sadly. We're going to have to store a little tiny bit of data somewhere, which is basically our organization list, which I'm really disappointed about because I don't want to store any data anywhere. I wanted to just use graph. So I guess we could always just return the user's organization ID. Because what do they need organization for? Why would anybody get organization anyway? Right?
Correct. Yeah.
It's really only here as a stub. So what we're going to do for this one is we're going to get users. Although this is expecting an organization ID. I'm actually wondering if we even actually need
that call.
I don't even know if we need this call, to be quite honest.
Probably not, because you always Well, you need to, don't you? If you're managing at organizational level, not at a user level, right?
But it wouldn't be it wouldn't be based on the organization ID.
No.
It would be on, because if we don't have any data about the organization, then it honestly kind of doesn't matter, right?
True. Yeah.
So in that case, get organization is really going to be essentially the same thing as get user organization. Just return the user's organizations they're a member of.
Yeah, that's a good point. And then since the details of organization are not going to be useful, you don't really care, right?
Yep. So we'll just have this.
Mm-hmm.
We'll just have this called the other one. In fact, we could probably get rid of this method entirely. So I'm just going to leave it as not implemented for now. So for the users, we need to do a user query. And thanks to our friend Bolt, I have a bunch of user queries in a sticky note, because that's the best place to keep them, obviously.
What does Bolt have to do with that?
He helped me figure out exactly the query that we needed to write. It was incredibly helpful. Yeah, it was incredibly helpful. So let's see, where are these lists? Here we go. No, that's to find a specific user, which is a good place to start.
Just to clarify for people that are not following or haven't followed our stream before, we're going to use Microsoft Graph to manage B2C or interrogate B2C. So you can use Microsoft Graph from that perspective, but users signing into B2C don't have access to Graph. So please don't get confused thinking that, hey, B2C and Graph now go together. They don't. You can use Graph to manage B2C.
Yeah, we're going to proxy all those through an app. We're going to proxy all those through an app user. So in the Graph SDK, as you are the SDK wizard, what's the best way for me to do a filter in the Microsoft Graph SDK?
You can test it on the Graph Explorer if you want to. In fact.
Oh, this looks pretty easy. So let's see. We're going to do users, user ID, and then event. So it's basically just a filter that hangs off of the object, or you use a query option. So we will do. We'll just do a users dot. I don't see a filter on here. So I wonder if I have to do a query object. So let's do query, or we'll just do filter, and this is a query option. And in here we will put our filter. So what we need is a filter on
the user ID.
We actually need we need a filter on that user ID. So I'll just take this filter, put this down in here. Okay.
Do you need to use interpolation in there at all?
I will have to do it in one place. So we're going to try to find a sign-in type of email address with an issuer assigned ID equal to our user ID, or sorry, our user. We'll call this user sign-in name. Okay. I'll change this to user sign-in name. And then we need $1 here for interpolation to work. So that's going to filter identities where the sign-in type is an email address and the issuer assigned ID is a user sign-in name. There is a user sign-in name that we get. So the thing that we actually need off of that.
So wait, you have you have a string there. Okay, that's the parameter passed in. Cool.
Yep. So what is this expecting? A name. Oh, the name needs to be the filter, right? Okay, so $filter, and then we'll do $, and then we'll delete filter here. So now we've got filter, and then the filter value will be identities, any, blah, 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 blah. Okay.
Cool.
So we've got our query option. Now, users doesn't seem to have, or maybe do I need a users client? That doesn't seem right.
Wait, you already have the client, isn't it? What is the Graph client?
So I've got a Graph service client, and I want users, but I want a filter on users. I don't see anywhere to do a filter. Or maybe it's on request filter. There we go. And then the request filter we could do the filter there, or we could just set the query options where do we put the query options? Do we put this
It's
in the
not
request? It is here. So new list of query option with our filter in there. That should be enough. It looks like it is. So this will give us our, so we'll do a users.request. We'll put our list of query options in there. And then we need a dot get async. Okay. So, all right. This needs to be async. So get user organization. So this should get us our user, or users that match that, which ideally should only be a single one. So this is going to give us a list of users. So then in our user list itself, so let's see, if our user list is more than one, well, if we don't have any, then that's a problem, right? I don't know why this is. So if we don't have any, then that's going to be a problem. So we'll just throw an exception for now. User not found. So if
I wonder if you're aware that you sync to yourself when you code.
What? What are you talking about? What?
You ever heard that? You ever heard yourself doing that?
No, I don't. I don't hear it at all. Are you kidding me?
I knew you were doing that subconsciously, but yeah, you do that. It's always fun to hear you. When you know what you're going to do next and you're doing it, you sync to yourself. Okay.
Now it's all I'm going to be able to think about. I can't even remember what I was actually trying to do because that's all I'm going to think about is, oh my god.
Man, I killed your mojo
call
now. I knew I shouldn't have said that live.
So if the count is greater than 1, then we've also found too many users, which is going to be another problem.
A problem, yeah.
Yep.
Now, is the user sign-in name going to be unique? Can you use a UPN or something?
Well, you cannot sign in. You cannot sign in with more than, or sorry, you cannot create an account or more than one account with the same sign-in value. So there's a sign-in addresses array or user identities array now, or identities array. You cannot use, two accounts cannot have the same type and value.
Yeah.
So it's possible that you could have an email address sign-in that is like my Gmail account. It's possible that an identity provider could provide that to you, to B2C, as my identity. But as long as it's not the same type and the issuers are different, then it passes. But right now this is rather naively filtered on just email address. We'd probably have to run this based on a sign-in type, or maybe even just remove the sign-in type and look at issuer assigned IDs. But we really need to check both of those because we can have a phone number, a username, or an email address. Any one of those three. So if we don't have anybody, throw an exception. If we have more than one, throw an exception. I guess we could also do like a single or default, but whatever. So if we find our user, what we actually need to send back is the, let's see, single. What we need to send back is a very specific property, which is, we got to go find our property. So in Graph, or in B2C, in Graph, when you have a user, when you have what's called a user attribute, the user attributes have a specific format that they show up in.
Right.
So let's go look at one of those briefly. Let's see. I may have picked the wrong one off of here, but that's fine. I can come back to it later. So, we've got our users, and in here we are going to have an extra field. Let me see if I can't find it in here. Extension, no extension. Oh my.
Oh, by the way, if you are using the beta endpoint, you need to use the beta SDK, right?
No, that yes, that's true. Although I think I was only using beta as we were struggling with something else. So we should be able to do this through one. So when you create an extension attribute in B2C, either like when you create one in the portal, like in user attributes, if you were to create an extension attribute, when you interact with it in a custom policy in the XML, you just use extension underscore the name of the property. When you create the property in the portal, you just give it a name. You don't say extension or anything like that. When it comes back in your claim set, it will just be extension underscore the name of the property. However, the way it's actually stored in Graph is extension underscore the application where that is stored underscore the name of the property. So in this case, our application ID without dashes is BF169D2C. That is because we created this in the portal. This this app ID is the one that corresponds to the B2C. It's called
app
B2C Extensions app. Yeah, if you look in your B2C app registration list, you'll see B2C Extensions app. That's the one that's registered here. So when we query this through Graph, we have to use the full name of the property, and the full name of the property is going to include that app ID. So we've got the full name of our property, so let's go get it off of our user object. So if I get a single user, how do I get a specific field off of that user? An extension attribute. I have to use like an indexer kind of a thing.
Ooh, I see. Maybe you need to select.
That works.
Can you do select? Do a where? Does B2C support claims mapping to give it a friendly name?
Well,
I think it does, but not in Graph, right? That's the problem.
Yeah, in Graph, it's not friendly. So it will come across in a claim set without the extra GUID in there, but it will still be extension underscore the name of the attribute. Now, in custom policy, you could map it to a new name. So if you wanted the output claim to be different, we could do that in the actual claim set that gets sent down to the users or to the applications, but we wouldn't. You would still interact with it through Graph using the fully qualified regular name, because the one that would get sent downstream that we modify in policy, the one that we would send to the apps, that claim would exist only in that output claim set and would never be persisted into the B2C database that way.
Yeah, you're manipulating after the fact, and Graph is doing the raw thing, right? It's accessing the raw data rather than being able to manipulate or see anything else.
So let's see.
So
let's get a user property in Graph. So if we get a user, okay.
Actually, it's the first time I see you actually Googling for things. I am impressed. We found the limit. We found your limits. I am impressed.
I'll be honest, like the Graph SDK is helpful for all the types you get, but I've found it seems somewhat opaque to use, especially stuff like this. Like, how do I get a specific property off of a user? Let's see, the Graph C# SDK get user property. Like, I just want to get a specific user property.
Yeah.
So why? So this has got to select. I guess I have to. Do I have to do? I guess I have to do the select in the query.
So it comes back with those fields that you need. I see.
Which is, I mean, that's okay because we don't want to return literally everything if we don't have to, right? So let's do.
It's efficient in the way that it does it.
But how do I do that with a specific? How do I do that with a specific?
A custom one that it's not part of the object, right? Yeah. I see.
So yeah, so this has select you into new display name and job title, but those are known.
Correct.
So that's filter, order by, access the items in a collection. Use expand to access related entities. We don't want that. Delete, make a post to create a new one, update an existing. Yeah, I'm just not sure. How do we do a select
of a custom
with a custom?
And that's not in the object list? Is not part of the properties of the object?
Well, no, because well,
It's an extended property. I wonder if there's extended properties or something.
it's a good point. It could be. Let's see. I don't know what's on this object. Let's go look.
What is that? One
What?
dot. Right, if you press a dot, it comes up with all these weird X.
No idea. You see how close OmniSharp is in the restart OmniSharp is in my recently used commands.
Yes.
So I just
You should also be using. You know what? Try the presenter mode. It's great for the people that are following on the stream.
You know, I did try it, and people complained.
You didn't like it.
So.
You didn't like it?
I personally didn't mind it, but people did not like it. So I said, all right.
Oh, really?
I won't use it. Yep.
Who didn't like it? How dare they? I am upset.
Yeah.
Now.
So there is not. So yeah,
There's no extended properties thing.
No, I mean almost. Maybe it's under extensions.
Ooh.
Let's see.
Extension.
Do we have any SDK docs somewhere? Like the generated docs, you know?
You mean the API reference?
Not the API reference, but like the SDK. Well, yeah, I guess the SDK API reference.
Yeah. I see.
Let's see. I see a bunch of samples. Let's see here, but I don't see. Maybe it's in here. We'll try it in there. I don't see the actual. Like I just want to see that. I want to see like the object types. You know.
Is it not? Is it not at the bottom of the docs in the reference?
Good point. Let's go look over there.
I think that's where we usually put them.
That's graph service documentation. That's .NET HTTP request. Okay. So, well, there's a graph reference, but I don't see an SDK reference.
I see. But
I guess I can
the objects
maybe...
should be there, right?
Yeah. Let's go look at the user object and see what's that extensions property that hangs off of them.
You have the v1 reference and the users.
So here's our user object, or the user resource type, sorry. Let's look at extensions. Okay, so there's an extensions thing that hangs off. So this gets our open and our schema extensions, but B2C extensions are a little bit different. Of course. That would be too easy. Let's see. So
it says open extensions are open types that offer flexible way to add untyped app data directly to a resource instance. Is that not what we're doing right now?
These are, I don't believe these are open extensions.
Okay.
I believe these are schema extensions.
Which is also, it's also supported here, right?
Yeah. I just don't know if we were to do this. Let me try a
Yep.
Let me try a list.
Yep.
Let's see if our extensions have actually been added or not.
Sure.
So this is just whack schema extensions. So let's go back here and let's look at schema extensions. Okay. I don't know what all these are. Let me see if org ID shows up in here anywhere. Does not. And org ID is the name of our extension, so I don't believe it's going to be in here because we haven't really registered it. Now, I mean, that's not to say that we couldn't register it as an extension. I just don't see, because we're using it as a B2C attribute.
Right.
It just presents a little bit differently. So if I want to get a specific property off of a user in the Graph SDK, how do we do that?
That is a good question. Can you run it in Graph Explorer and see what the generated .NET code looks like?
Oh, that's a good idea. Yeah, let's do that.
Not just a pretty face after all.
All right, let me get my
So
query.
in case people did not know about that, there is the ability to look at the code snippets that get generated when you run a query in Graph Explorer, which is pretty awesome.
Yep. All right, let me get my queries up again. Oh, I've already got it up. That's why it's not opening anymore. All right, let me get my query up here. So here's my query. Okay, cool. So what I want to select, I also want to select my org ID off of this. So the org ID field, what we'll do, I'll just take the select off of here for the moment. And it's extension underscore. We'll find that one again. Let's see, where is that? It is extension underscore. I'll just take this off. I'll have to go get the thing again, but that's okay. So take our select out of here. We'll just do our filter. So here's our filter.
Yep.
I need to do beta to see all of them up front. And then we'll have our extensions. This is some custom property. We are actually interested in org ID, but I'll use this one just so we can see what the code is that gets generated.
Yep.
So we'll do a select on ID and this property name. Okay, so we just got those two properties. Now let's see. Snippet not available.
Oh, come on.
So that's worked. Now,
What about Java?
I wonder if
Nothing.
that's because, hey, thanks, contentful devs. Thanks for the
Yes.
raid. Yeah,
Thank you for joining us.
that's awesome.
Kapow. I like it.
Woohoo!
Friends.
Luco Codes. What are you guys working on over there?
Yeah.
How is everybody? We're messing around with B2C and Graph today. So Azure AD B2C,
Microsoft Graph and
yeah,
B2C.
Microsoft Graph. So we've got to select. I guess we'll just have to do the select, but then how do I actually get that value out of the user object? You know what I mean? So we can do a select that's just a string. So we'll start there.
Just use dynamic.
So we've got our ID. We're gonna have our extension, right?
Yes.
So we're gonna have we've got our filter already. We're gonna have our ID. And our extension here should be org ID, because these are both custom properties from the same app ID. The app ID won't change, so we've got org ID.
Yep.
And I'll just grab this here. Did we actually get any in the response? Okay, we did. So we got an ID. Only one of these users has an org ID, and there it is. So that's good. Okay. Now, obviously, we'll have to get org IDs for all of our users, but whatever. So
Right.
we'll select ID and org ID.
Okay.
So now we've got our. We'll have to make this a. Make this
Parameter.
a config parameter. So we've got our the org ID, extension ID, a config parameter. So we've got. So we're going to get those.
So we
two
select
out of
it. We just don't know how to return it, right?
So I've got a single one of these here. Now, how do I access a specific property?
Do you just need to return the organization ID?
It's pretty much all we need out of here. We just need the organization ID.
Single. Can you assign it to a dynamic and then just reference it? I mean, I know it sounds like a hacky option, but would that work?
If it would work, I don't know. So we've got our select in here.
Okay, would you do it is the question rather than would it work?
I mean, I don't want to use dynamic if I don't have to.
I agree. It needs to be strongly typed, but this is not.
How do we get a specific? How do we get a named property off of a user object in Graph SDK?
I don't know if Darrell Miller can help us with this one. I haven't done it. I think your query is way open-ended. Get event. Yeah, these are not going to help. You need some kind of a Stack Overflow or somebody else. Oh. Will it? Will it work? What are they saying?
Somebody's saying, "Oh, you should be able to go use V1." Don't want to do that. No, I don't want to do that.
Okay.
So when we do this select, so when we get the data back, like I know we get it back in the raw requests, but how do we access it through the user's object? That's what I don't know.
So it needs to be assigned to the user. So where does it get assigned if it's not one of the name properties in an extension, right?
Yeah, like where do those custom properties, how are they surfaced?
Okay.
How are they surfaced in here?
I would probably run this. I would run this and see what comes back, and then based on that, what comes back, I would open the debugger and see what the object looks like.
Yeah, I guess you're right.
Sometimes debugging helps, you know.
Because it's got these extension attributes, but they're not ours, right? They're different.
No. Yeah.
So I don't see, there are very few methods on these objects.
And there's no object, is it? Like the generic raw object that comes back that we can work with.
Yeah, and I don't see any sort of indexer to be able to give it a specific property. So
debugger, stop it, done.
God, so lame. So that definitely won't work. I know. We'll do it. I mean,
it sounds lame, but unless you have a better way to do it.
No, I don't have a better way to do it. So
why is the user list complaining there? What's the problem?
Because I can't return a user object on a string as a string.
Oh, it needs to be a string, right? I see.
Yeah.
Okay.
So we got user lists, and then in here, we're going to have to take a look at this object. So,
yeah.
Now I need a way to call this. Get user. I guess I should write some tests.
Bah. Who needs tests? We'll just code in production. No, please don't do that. I'm just messing with you. You need tests.
Let me see what my username is that I've got my extension on. Let's see. All right. So org ID, so that user is jdanderson plus org ID at gmail.com. So let's look for this user in here. I'm just going to put this in as a string for the moment. Let's see, here we go. And this is it. Okay. This needs to be async. Okay. So let's run this.
Let's see what happens.
This is in my repository, so I need to make sure this is actually getting called. I'll just put the sign-in name here instead. And we'll go call this from our actual functions.
Okay.
So, get organizations, get organization. Okay, object result. And we'll do an await on the repo. Get organization.
I'm surprised you went with that repository pattern.
Well, I'm not married to it. And I think I'm about to find out why, because I have not wired up any of the dependency injection yet either to get this going. Oh. If I knew the SDK like the back of my hand, this would be a lot easier, but sadly I do not. So
you've been writing code for all this time, but you haven't tested it at all?
Well, I mean, it worked, so I don't need to worry.
I love your confidence, but I am very, very different to that. Like, I use a very iterative approach of adding lines of code before I go and test it.
So now I guess I gotta go get all this squared. I'm almost tempted to just go get a. I'm tempted to just go do a. I'm tempted to just go build a quick console app because I think it'll be faster than this, but whatever. So I'm gonna go take my functions. I'm gonna take my function startup from here, and I'll just recreate that over here. Startup.cs. Okay.
Does it have all the files and everything else you need?
Huh?
Does it have all the files that you need? App settings
we should have,
and all that?
no, of course not. It doesn't. That makes too much sense. What are you talking about, Christos? It wouldn't have.
Sorry for making assumptions.
I know. Well, you know what they say about assumptions.
Yeah, I know what they say about assumptions. It's fine.
Okay.
I'm happy to live with the consequences.
So this is let's see. So I think I actually don't even have all the correct types in here yet, or I don't even have all the correct NuGet packages in here yet. I need functions extensions. I need identity client. Don't need identity web. So let's take these three. Put these three over here.
I love that you went with identity.web.graph. I am mighty impressed there with your usage of SDKs.
I'm not using it because it doesn't work. So, okay. So we've got the extensions package, which is what we need for. We got the extensions package, which is what we need for dependency injection and functions. We've got the graph SDK. So that means if we look at our startup, most of these should have resolved. It looks like they did. I'm going to need some app settings for Azure AD. Oh yeah, I remember having to do this too. This was bizarre, where we had to essentially add a singleton string in here. Wow. And we've got an MSAL token provider, which is going to use MSAL, and it's a client secret for right now. Sadly, I'm going to have to use a client secret, and then acquire token for clients. This should at least get us a graph service client that's available.
I think, is your local.settings.json the right one, and does it contain the appropriate secrets there, or do you need to add an app settings.json that contains the secrets?
Nope, I have to add all that here, which is what I'm doing right now. So,
making sure we don't miss anything else.
Oops, nope. All right. Got all this. All this is good. Probably should give it a different client ID because it is going to be different. We'll have to rotate those secrets differently, but I just want to see if this is going to work for the moment.
Yep.
So we've got our settings. We have everything we need there. I think we're okay to run it.
Okay. Let's see what happens. I mean, errors will come up and we can fix them.
Yeah. All right. Let's run it. Let's see what we get. Oh, I gotta start my table storage, of course.
Are you? And if you're not, you have the Azure Storage Explorer console app, but if you are on a different machine and you're not on Windows, you can use Azure AD.
Yeah,
which
Azure
is an
AD
open
looks
source.
pretty cool.
Yeah, it is pretty cool.
All right, so let's get our postman up here.
So up until this point, you managed to avoid the need of having additional storage somewhere, right?
Well, I'm only using the storage is only there for functions to run. So we're not storing anything out there, but
I mean, you're gonna store your roles somewhere, don't you?
those are all stored in the graph.
Oh, they're all stored in the graph.
Mm-hmm.
Very nice. What is that? Error messages? Add application role.
That's okay. I just need the one. I need the method to index that we are using. This is just app role stuff. Get application. These are just unimplemented ones right now. Add application role. Get app assignments. Okay, cool. So what we do have is get organization, which is this one.
Yep.
So let me get my postman up over here. so many like tools and pieces. You think we'd make this easier by now? Just put 1, 2, 3 in here. Even though this is actually, this would be like, this is going to be this one. Org ID. Okay. Did I not have a breakpoint on there? Thought I did. Maybe not. I did. I do have one on there.
You got an error message at 520. Do you not see that?
Unable to resolve the... Oh, because I didn't add my repository. Of course not. So yeah, that's probably not going to resolve. Ugh. Okay.
We talked about wiring up the repository, remember?
I know.
It's fine.
Too much pressure. Shouldn't add a single...
Hey, we got Ed Samberno is on the... It's on the stream. Welcome, Ed.
Ed Charbonneau. Hey, Ed.
Yeah. How you doing, sir?
Am I in the wrong startup? Probably. No, I think this is the correct one. What do we call this? A filtered organization repository? Yep. Okay, so we get this one added in. I don't think we really have anything in there except for the graph service client. It's the only thing that's injected right now. So let's run this again. See how we get going.
Indeed, indeed.
Bubblegum and duct tape. Almost there.
Is that not how most of the internet works anyway?
Indexing functions. Okay, let's get our Postman up.
Canary property of map undefined. What? What did you do this time?
So something still broke, but that's okay.
Did you get a breakpoint?
So I got an invalid filter from graphs. That's good. So at least I hit. Oh, at least I actually hit the graph. Let me get my graph query back up here.
But your breakpoint didn't get hit?
It does not look like it, so I may be in the wrong place. So this is the query that works. Okay.
Hey, is synthwave all you need to get your theme up and running, or did you have something else to do for the the glowing parts?
You said that it has something called Neon Dreams. That's a part of it. That's what gives it the glow. And then there's another one called Fix VS Code Checksums, because it changes some of the VS Code checksums. Although for 2 days we've had complaints about this theme, so maybe it's time to switch it. I don't know. Maybe
H3 Tech complained again today. So
well, somebody complained. Well, no, somebody complained yesterday that it was too. But granted, I think yesterday we were on a pretty low resolution thing, so
too glowy.
That may have been why. Yeah. So okay. So
Urotide says that they're using the exact same VS Code theme. There you go. Your VS Code theme brothers or buddies.
It sounds so silly when you say it like that.
It's never too glowy. Yeah, I know. I mean, people like their glow. But Copper Beardy says, give hot dog a try. I don't know. I'm using my bearded theme.
Well, you know what I could do is I know who was it? It's a bald bearded builder. He lets people change it with points, and they make he has some that somebody made, and they're like super ugly. They're like nice themes that somebody specifically made very ugly, and then people use channel points to change it.
I want to use channel points to change your font to Comic Sans. How about that?
It's gonna be like a 1,000,000 point thing. I don't think there's
That's
gonna
fine.
be any.
I will have the patience to collect all these points.
Okay, does this filter look good? So filter identities. I think I was missing a closing parenthesis. Issuer of JD issuer and issuer signed ID. That all looks good. Good. We got our closed paren. I think that's good. So okay. Let's run it again. Stop it. Kill search.
Wait, are you using? Yeah, okay. Yeah, it's binding to your code. Power mode lets you keep a combo counter as you type the times out and little animate explosions above the text as it's added. Wow.
That sounds amazing.
That does sound amazing.
I think I would like that quite a bit. All right, so let's see. What are we get? What error are we getting?
A theme for VS? Ed, what is this? 2005? I'm just kidding, people. VS has its place, but we tend not to use it because it's a bit more mid-century theme. It's called mid-century theme.
I need a URI. I think I might have a URI encoding problem here.
Oh.
Yeah. Although I thought that those things were done for you, but that's okay if they're not.
You know what they say about assumptions? You know what they say about assumptions?
I know. Okay, so I don't need that. Filter, identities, any, issuer. Like, my sign-in name has a plus in it. Do you think that plus is going to cause a problem?
Yes.
Do you think so? Or is it going to happen? Is it going to handle? I would imagine it would URL encode everything before it sends it anyway, right?
I hope so. I mean, the query option should do the URL encoding for you.
Okay, so I got a breakpoint.
Bugs McGee says, that's a lovely name, by the way. Are you Scottish? It says you could use 2077 as your theme. I assume that's a theme, right? I agree, Ed. Visual Studio has some fantastic tooling attached to it, including analysis and performance. So if you are going to drill down into certain things, it's definitely a fantastic tool.
Okay, so my user wasn't found.
Oh, okay, that's good.
So that's good.
That means that what you're passing is not right?
Well, interestingly, none of my breakpoints are getting hit. I don't know why. So it says user not found, but that's my own error message. So this is the user, jdanderson plus org ID at gmail.com. So if we take that back to Graph Explorer,
will that work?
Graph Exploder, there it is. So plus org ID. Oh, so that maybe I did not use the right. I must not have used the correct email address. So that would be one. That's one reason why it wouldn't work.
Okay.
So I need my. Let me take the select out of here. Go find my user again, and I'll take my user query out of here. In fact, I'll just go get my user list again. I should already have this in history, though.
Can you say half homeland? Considering that I spent half my life in Scotland. Does that count as my half homeland? Can you say half homeland? Is that even a term?
I think that's okay.
Okay. Or I made up something new today.
I mean,
I'll add it to the dictionary along with architecting.
That's just so wrong, and you know it.
I just say that to trigger you. Okay. I mean, if I wanted to complete the whole thing, I would say just run your Azure function inside a container, and we'll be able to wrap the day.
So it's jdanderson plus org ID at gmail.com. Have we just found a bug? Now I'm worried we found a bug since my query isn't going to work. The long query I was using earlier. So this query here, select ID and identities, and it's jdanderson plus org ID at gmail.com.
You don't have a typo or anything, do you?
No.
Okay.
And it says there are no users with that. So do I need to like %2b this to escape it? I do. Okay. So I can't just put the direct one in there. I have to escape it beforehand. Which, I mean, whatever. Yeah. Like that's fine.
Interesting.
Yeah. Okay. Whatever. So don't use aliases. Somebody's saying don't use aliases. It's essentially whoever designed this API is like, yeah, don't use an alias for this. Okay. Let's run it again.
We don't accept aliases.
I'm also not sure why my breakpoints aren't getting hit, but that's a different story for a different day.
Wait, the %2b, is that instead of the plus?
Plus. Yep.
How the hell did you remember that?
I didn't. I searched for it earlier.
Oh, you searched for it. I didn't. maybe that was while I was in the chat, but I was like, does he remember all the ASCII codes and how to escape them? Damn.
See, it's running. My breakpoints aren't getting hit, but that's okay. So let's see what's happening now. Man, this is gonna be this slow. I don't know if it's gonna work. Or maybe I have hit a breakpoint. I have hit one.
Oh yeah.
That's why it's taking so long. Why is it taking so long?
Right.
Right.
Tan tan tan. F11 in this one.
So we got our filter.
Okay.
We're going to select org ID. Okay. I'm going to put one here just in case I slip. Okay. So user list any. We got a user. User list greater than 1. We've got too many. Cool. So we got our user.
Okay.
So what do we have on our user object?
What?
Additional data, maybe? Ah, that's right. Additional data.
There you go.
Way to go! What a super call! All right, to go and debug this. Okay, cool. So we have additional data, which is a dictionary.
And you can actually, I think you can reference that by key. You can index it.
Should be able to. Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
So user additional data.
Man, see.
Where would we be? Okay, I want to stop. I want to stop this now, please. Control C.
You're gonna crush it.
Okay, cool. All right. So the debugger's finally stopped. So, all right. So user additional data. It doesn't look like it's indexed. So we'll do a. I guess we'll do a where. And it's a key, and the key is going to be our extension ID. I'm just going to put this in here as a... So we'll put this in here, and this way I'll just reference it into both places.
So is this is not going to be hard-coded, is it? Like, it's gonna change every single time. Am I right?
It won't change it'll change with every installation. So yeah, it's gonna have to be a config. It's gonna have to be a config parameter for what your organization is gonna be. So
yeah.
Okay. So we got where the key is the org ID extension.
Please don't do that, Ed. I don't always use private keys, but when I do, I commit them to GitHub. The whole point is to have secretless apps. I mean, this is very hacky right now. We're trying to put together. We're going to be using Key Vault and Mouse Identities to protect sensitive information. So you should never, ever have any secrets in your code. I mean, we have a whole session that we deliver at user groups and conferences about that. If you're curious, you can check our blogs and join our Discord so we can help you get to that level as well.
So if we don't have one of these, we'll do a single or default. If we don't have one. And then we'll just return org ID value. Let's see, org ID, no. We'll return, I guess we'll just return an empty string for now. And otherwise, we will return the org ID value. Of course, singular default. I wonder what the default additional data looks like. Actually, I guess we could probably be a little bit better about this. So if there isn't any.
True.
So let's see. If user additional data any. Or I guess really if not. Well, no, because there's definitely going to be a case where somebody may not have an org, and that's because they haven't been added to one yet. So we probably still want to be able to, well, they don't have one though. So if there's no additional data, then we'll just throw until we can clean this up later. User doesn't have an org ID. And then user additional data. Do a single. I don't really want to do a single because a single is going to blow up if it's missing keys or contains key. There we go. So additional data dot contains key, and if it contains the org ID extension, so if it contains the extension, then we'll just do user additional data. Org ID extension. I guess I can't access it that way. So if it has the key, do that. Otherwise, throw. User has no org ID. Good. Okay. And we'll just return that, I guess. So if the user has a key, then let's get their value of this. I don't like that. Oh, it's an object. So we'll get their value. Otherwise, for now, we're just going to throw an exception, just so we can at least get a little bit further. So at this point, we are going to, let's see, that's returning an organization. This is all broken now anyway. Because our get organization was going to return an organization, and all an organization is at this point really is just an organization ID, right?
Yeah.
There's really not a whole lot to it. That's okay. Let's just see what we get. I think we're squared away there now. And luckily, so that's the thing. We're gonna have to run this on pretty much every single query. I wonder, we could do an extension method for generating query objects and just always generate query options before those queries go. In fact, I wonder if there's some filters we could use.
Yeah.
Well, for Graph SDK, I wonder if it has any sort of extensibility points back there to do that. All right, so
no, I haven't used them.
Go through here. So we got our query options, blah, 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 blah. All that looks good. We make our query. Parsing OData select and expand failed. Found system token extension org ID and select or expand. Oh, that's right. I don't need a $sign in front of string interpolation here in .NET, do we?
Nope.
Too much JavaScripting recently for me, apparently.
Yeah. Context switching is hard, right?
It is. It is definitely difficult. Okay. Send this down. Okay. Seems my attach didn't work. So let me close this down. Run this one more time.
So Ed is asking whether it's possible to create secretless apps using Blazor, and yes. It's totally possible. You just need to reference the appropriate Azure SDKs, and Bob's your uncle. Whether it's React or Blazor or any other app that we support via the Azure SDKs, you get managed identities and local accounts that can pull secrets from Key Vault without you having to do anything. The nice thing about ASP.NET is they can also do configuration secrets at startup, but that's an extra icing, I guess, on the top, cherry on the icing. Man, I need coffee. It's 1 week without coffee, by the way, friends. So the fact that I can still speak and not lose my words is good.
Okay. So, I'm going to figure out the best way to do this. I don't really know what it is yet. I'd really like to do filters, like a filter, because I don't have to do this myself each time, because you have to remember to do it. Because this is going to be running, since it's going to be running with client creds, that makes it it makes it a little. I mean, it's kind of dangerous in that way, right? Because if you don't filter, then somebody could see things that they're not supposed to. So we really need to make sure that filter is enforced. So I don't know. I have to think about it, but I'm hungry. It's time for lunch. So we're gonna be back on. When are we back? Friday.
Friday.
What's going on Friday?
We got Julie Lerman, if I remember correctly.
Oh, that's right. Julie Lerman's coming. Yep. So we're gonna help her migrate an EF app, right?
Well, it's an ASP.NET Core app with Entity Framework and local users into Azure with SQL Database, Key Vault, mass identities, Azure AD authentication, and what have you. The whole shebang. It's going to be amazing. And Julie's here to teach us Entity Framework, and we're here to talk about identity. By the way, Julie is also, I think, on stream today with the Visual Studio team, or tomorrow, if I remember correctly, with the Entity Framework team, actually talking about data. So she's going to have a busy week with Microsoft.
Should we go see?
Honorary. She's an honorary. Microsoft employee. She's doing so many things with us, like Javier the other week, right? They're doing so many things with us that they almost feel like they're part of Microsoft.
I don't see her now. So
maybe not today. It might be tomorrow.
Might be
tomorrow.
Oh, okay. Okay.
You know.
So anyway, so who should we raid? We got Jay Linksdorf, Chael Codes. Who should we go raid?
I would say let's go to Chael.
Okay.
Yeah. I pronounced the name right. Oh, and follow us on Discord, friends. If you have any questions, if you want to join the community, we're super active over there. If you have anything that you want to ask us, we're more than happy to support you there.
Yeah, so come out, hang out with us on Discord, get your questions answered, join the banter.
The banter. Yeah.
We're gonna do a raid now and get out of here, but we'll be back on Friday. Anything that happens between now and then, let us know. Come to Discord. Hey, by the way, one more thing. If you use Okta or Auth0 and you have opinions about the recent news of Okta's acquisition of Auth0, if you have opinions on that, I personally would love to hear them. So please reach out to us. Join the Discord, 425show@microsoft.com, however you prefer to get in touch with us. Please get in touch with us. Let us know what you're thinking and how you're feeling about it. Good, bad, neutral, we don't really care. We're just curious to know what you think. So anyway, we're going to get out of here. We will see you all Friday, if not before. Have a great day.